I feel like I just aggressively learn and use my time to learn very, very well there. And so I think, best case scenario, like you could call it just in time learning. I think I do. It's like you can develop the muscle of learning. I've gone through, seasons of formal academia and an MBA and all these sort of things. It's been different, the style of learning that I do now, and that habit of learning where, I don't know, like your ability to grow and to expand beyond yourself and have these ideas, like anything that's been good in my business, I feel like I didn't pioneer that idea. Actually, even this idea of hiring someone to help around the house for little things, like I learned it in a different mastermind. All right. I remember like the big dream that we've had and I've been like working on with my wife is this idea of like a house manager. We kind of felt like, maybe we couldn't, whatever. There's varying levels of comfort of like, having someone fully integrated with your house. And there's been a season of, little kids and illness or just sickness and all this sort of stuff. So we haven't gotten to that place of it, but I saw other examples of people doing this and this, like this current thing that we keep there, like that was because of other folks there, but it was putting myself in a position of continuously thinking like, I want to be learning, I want to be growing, and I want to be open to these new ideas that I'm not just going to manifest by sitting in silence. And what a gift it is that we've like as a species, we're connected, we share, we collaborate. And so a lot of podcasts, a lot of audiobooks is my preferred style of learning. I've gotten really good at that, like audio learning, listening to learn. And if anybody's listening to this on a podcast right now, you're doing the exact same thing. But it's been a really cool habit that I've kept of expanding and growing in this thing because it's weird to say it's like, it's not multitasking, but it is kind of I think of like cross-functional growth, right? So this is like, if you think of like an exercise, there's these full body movements, like a burpee. It's one of my favorite moves, right? So you're like, your burpee, like what muscle group are you working? You're like, well, you got like your upper body and your shoulders and your arms and your legs and your core in one movement. But it's like, I could sit there and just do like bicep curls, or I could do burpees and, or I could do squats, or I could do burpees. And the audio learning modality makes me feel like I get to do more of, I spend my time doing burpees than a single movement. So a lot of times I'll listen while I'm working out. That's kind of the common theme there.
Yeah, I find it's easier for me to feel like I'm being productive because sometimes learning feels you're being passive. You're not. It just feels that way because the activity is different. So I love combining it with working out or riding a bike or doing something. Any kind of last words of wisdom to people who are trying to figure out, maybe they're stuck, maybe they're looking for they're ready for another season of growth. What advice would you give an entrepreneur who is looking at really stretching things out in their coming months?
If you feel like you're preparing for a big season of growth, or trying to initiate growth, I resonate with momentum feeling like living. And so, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs feel that. So if you feel stagnant, if you're like, man, I just want to feel alive again, I want to create momentum, I want to create that kind of growth. The coolest mental gymnastics hack that I've done is the false constraint of time. I think Ed Milet talks about this really aggressively, where we choose to evaluate ourselves in arbitrary means, right? We collect and evaluate on a daily, on a weekly, on a monthly, on a yearly, maybe you'd say quarterly in there. And depending on how large of an evaluation period that you decide to guide yourself by, it kind of determines how quickly you grow. And so I would encourage you just to start to shorten it down. So goals or measurements that you may have kept annually, maybe keep those monthly, or things that you might have kept monthly, maybe make those weekly, or if they were weekly, maybe keep those daily. Just that false constraint of a shorter period of evaluation has what has really stimulated me to grow at a clip that when you zoom out feels aggressive, but because I'm choosing to do it in this different evaluation terms and just giving myself a different language to measure my growth by, it actually doesn't feel exhausting. It feels life-giving. And I think the best season that I could relate it to is new parenthood, where The mug, the cliche on the mug is the days are long, but the years are short. And that's kind of what it can feel like, because when you're a new parent, you're measuring times between naps. Like, you're measuring how many diapers are changed in a day. You have a smaller lens, a smaller time lens that you're using to evaluate growth. You see development and advancement in this little baby happen every single day. And so the days feel long. So much stuff happens in them. And in hindsight, the years feel so short. And I think the same thing can happen in entrepreneurship, and can be a gift for you as you start to choose to look through a lens of a smaller time period, put that false constraint on there, and you'll see growth exponentially, almost naturally occur, just because you're starting to ask a different question. What did I do in a day as opposed to what did I do in a month?